COVID-19. You've probably heard of it by now. You know, the virus which has taken over 127,000 lives in the UK alone. It's impacted everyday life for the last 18 months and life will never be the same. We've spent a combined 11 months in lockdown and we're still involved in one now. Remembering to stay 2 meters apart is all anyone's ever heard in recent times, and lockdown hasn't made life easy. Countless jobs have been taken and lives have been ruined. During the lockdown, we have all had to create new ways of interacting, and by doing this, we have become closer as a nation, which has been helped by the internet. The internet has given us a platform for everyone to speak their mind, fact or fiction, wrong or right. This has ended up creating theories behind COVID. We call these conspiracy theories. We spent the last 6 months researching these theories and hunting down our local conspiracy theorists. This is the face behind the screen. This is the voice behind the mask.
We searched far and wide for someone to interview about these conspiracy theories. In fact, it took us roughly 6 months to do so. We found a Facebook group dedicated to spreading these theories. With further research, we found many Instagram accounts who are dedicated to this cause passionately. Following COVID guidelines, we sat one of these theorists down and had a little talk with him. His name? Digby Cumberbatch.
Do you understand what we are going to be talking about today?
Yes I do.
How has COVID-19 affected you?
Hasn't been great. I've felt quite isolated from the rest of the world, definitely. I feel like my own home is now the rest of the earth. It's been quite hard.
How so?
I feel the same as a lot of people. I feel lonely, depressed, but most of all I feel lied to.
Lied to?
Yes, the government have been lying to us. Have you not heard? But the vaccines.
Do you think there is many things our government isn't telling us?
Most definitely. I feel, even just with the origins of this whole virus, like they're trying to say it was a whole natural thing, an accidental pandemic. Like, some people are calling it the new plague. I think this was a whole thing made by China to stop their population. It spread out to the rest of the world.
Do you think that's why the origin was in China then?
Yes.
Do you think life will ever return to normal?
I hope so. I think we'll get to a smidge of it, but with them tracking us, invading our privacy, I don't think we'll ever actually be able to go back to what it was.
Going back to the vaccines, what do you think will happen if the trackers really are in there?
Well, everyone will just lose their whole sense of privacy. We won't have anything to ourselves anymore. Anyone could, see what you're up to. It's like with the whole social media thing, what they're doing.
You seem very aware about this pandemic. Do you think there are many people who think similarly?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm in a Facebook group with all of them. Well, not all of them, but, yeah, my friend Debbie, she showed me, and I've felt very much educated.
What would you say to that?
I'd say they need more educating. Well, everyone's, they're allowed to have their own opinion, sure, but I feel like they need to stop being sheep, stop following whatever the Prime Minister says.
What do you mean by that?
Well, people will watch the television, they'll see what's going on, and they'll just believe it without any kind of doubt.
Digby put us in contact with one of his companions, Sandra. She was willing to say her name but not give her face or voice away because she is deeply involved in the anti-mask movement. She has children, so she really doesn't want them getting involved.
Do you understand what we will be talking about today?
Yes, I do.
In your opinion, who is most affected by COVID-19?
Personally, I think that the children and the youths are affected the most as they are missing the beginning of their life, which will mould them into who they become.
Do you have any children yourself?
Yes, I have a 16-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son.
How would you say it has affected them?
They miss so much school and it's not fair on them. They have such bright futures which are being ruined by the government.
I'm sorry to hear that. How do you think the government should improve education for the country's children?
Firstly, we need to stop making them wear those stupid masks. They're pointless, ugly, and I don't like my children or anyone in my family wearing them.
Why do you think that they are pointless?
They're essentially pieces of paper. They won't do anything to protect you. It's all over Facebook, you know, how they're absolutely pointless.
It has been proven that you are less likely to get COVID whilst wearing a mask.
That is what they want you to believe. I think it's all a lie. All of it. I do not believe a word that comes out of Boris's mouth.
So you think the government are lying to us?
Obviously, all they ever do is lie.
I see. Are you concerned for the safety of your children?
Obviously I am, but we can't do anything about it. We're just stuck.
We then decided to talk to a professional about this, Dr. Hannah Hardy. She sat down with us and spoke to us about her opinions on COVID and her opinions on these conspiracy theories.
No worries, it's good to see you.
I got some questions for you for this
Thank you.
documentary. Are you willing to be filmed?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. How has COVID affected you?
So I would say that the pandemic has really affected my job in terms of the cases that we've been seeing. So we've been seeing a lot more complicated cases, and we've also had to deal with some really complex patients. It's been really hard on the morale of staff and all of my colleagues. I think there's been loads of media coverage already about the impact it's been having on staff, but I don't really think that everyone quite understands the day-to-day impact that this is. It doesn't just impact, you know, what we're dealing with, it impacts us emotionally as well. So I don't really think that this quite reflects the day-to-day impact of this. You don't quite realize the emotional strain it has dealing with such complex cases and also dealing with such critically ill patients. A lot of my colleagues have had to receive a lot of extra support for mental health, and within the hospital we've been implementing a lot more measures. So some examples of this is Zoom calls just to make sure that everyone's okay, and also just making sure that we're communicating a lot more as a team. Moving forwards, there's been a lot of research that's been done looking at the way that we can help to support staff through pandemics like this, but also through any type of crisis. Within this support, within this research, we've been looking a lot at the kind of bereavement support and also what is done in like intensive care units, etc., because a lot of staff who are not used to dealing with situations like this are having to on a day-to-day basis now.
So, Hannah, have you heard about the conspiracy theories based on coronavirus, and what is your opinion on them?
Yes, I would say that this has massively affected all of the work that we do. I mean, not having a vaccine can be so detrimental, and you know, we're seeing this a lot more in all of the cases that people are scared of the side effects. I think again it's really worth weighing up the long-term and the short-term consequences of this. On a long-term basis, people not having a vaccination could actually really impact the way that society can come out of this pandemic, and not only impact it within the healthcare sector, but also impact business and also the economy as well. Within the NHS and within hospitals, we've really been considering the different effects, because it is not only people's health that is being affected, everything has been affected by this pandemic. So one example of these conspiracy theories that I've seen is that masks aren't effective. I think within the wards, within COVID wards, we've seen the impact of PPE, and we saw how crucial it was, especially within the waves of the pandemic. And I think with this, it just, again, it impacts the way that people will slot back into society and our roadmap to reopening again. I think it's really hard to understand, because from a scientific background myself, you can see how having a mask covering your nose and your mouth can stop the spread of the pandemic and also stop particles from getting out. However, I think this is really hard to understand, and it's also something that the media and publicity have really, you know, impacted. And I think, again, the whole pandemic has really shown the role of how the media can impact everyone's opinion. So there's been a lot of conspiracy theories about the vaccination as well. There's been all sorts of conspiracy theories about having a tracker implanted into you, etc., etc. And I'm not quite sure where they've come from, but they have. And again, I think this has really impacted people's almost belief in the government, which is something that is so important at the moment. I've seen lots of my colleagues do a lot of the testing for the COVID vaccination, and it's been such a thorough process. Usually you would say that a vaccination takes about 5 years to produce, and that's usually the shortest time frame. However, these circumstances have made sure that it's been a quicker process, but this has not reduced the safety whatsoever. We have 100% made sure that it's something that is safe, and we would not have implemented it within society without it having different safety precautions. One of the things that is heavily studied within science is the vaccination process. A vaccination cannot be produced unless there's lots of testing. Testing not only on, healthy individuals, but also testing on individuals who might have comorbidities, etc. We really have tested this and ensured that it is safe. It's not something I've personally been involved in, but I know that the process has been thorough. Therefore, claims of people being anti-vaxxers and claims of different conspiracy theories towards the vaccination is something that I know has been quite upsetting for some of my colleagues, because this has been a lot of their hard work. At the end of the day, the government and the NHS want the best for the population, and they want the best for healthcare and also the future of healthcare, and therefore they wouldn't do something that could potentially be detrimental for the NHS in the future.
Do you think there's anything the government's hiding from us?
I think it's a really hard question. I think at the moment something that is so important is the transparency between the government, and also the relationship between the government and also the society, the population. I would personally say, from my perspective, that I think there's been a lot of false media around this whole pandemic, and there's been a lot of untruthfulness, a lot of different conspiracies, etc. However, I believe the government have really tried their best during this time. It has been next to impossible circumstances for all of us, but everyone has tried their best. The NHS have been as transparent as possible. I think the government have been as transparent as possible, but again, as I say, it's really hard to comment. I think there's been a lot of kind of statistics that have come out that people don't believe, really, and I think that's quite sad, because I do think at the moment everyone is trying to be as truthful as possible, and therefore trying to encourage everyone to act on the information that they are given. It is a very serious situation at the moment, no one can doubt that, but I think everyone's just trying their absolute hardest.
Do you think that life will return to normal?
Again, it's a really hard question. I would say that I think at the moment there's a lot of discussion about this new normal, as in we won't go completely back to normal, but there'll be different habits that people have picked up throughout the pandemic. For example, not hugging each other, and how no one used to greet each other with their elbows, but now that's a thing that we just tend to do. I would say in terms of going back to normal, which is something that we haven't had in a very, very long time, it's so hard to say. I think we're going to have waves. It's not going to be as straightforward as maybe we want it to be. It's going to go backwards a little bit. However, I would say that I think there is some hope. I think throughout my job, I have seen progression, and I have seen, reduced cases, reduced visits, the statistics within the hospital have massively reduced of COVID admissions, and also patients that are in hospital for a long time with COVID. So that isn't that they're not necessarily ill with it, that's just that they're not ill enough to be in hospital with COVID. I would say that there is hope. I'd say that having this roadmap back to normal, I know that it's not set in stone yet, but it is, slowly getting back to normal. It's really hard to say when travel, etc., will get back, but fingers crossed we will have some normality soon.
A final word from me now. I think COVID-19 has definitely affected us all in different ways. I mean, the interviews we've done, the opinions have definitely varied. And these are very different when looking at the country as a whole. Just last year, riots took place on these theories. People got arrested and prosecuted, showing that these theories really are real and people do believe in them. We want to know your opinion. We want to know what you believe, what your theories are. We want to know what the people really think. Because after all, you're the ones behind the mask.